Trump's Attorney General nominee Pam Bondi just sat with the Senate Judiciary Committee, where she turned in what was a wholly disqualifying performance, one that should give pause to Americans on both sides of the aisle. For example, she's exposed herself as an election denier who is perfectly content to do the bidding of Donald Trump, which completely undermines the supposed independence of the DOJ.
I want to ask you a factual question. Who won the 2020 presidential election?
Joe Biden is the President of the United States.
Ms. Bondi, you know that there is a difference between acknowledging it and, I can say that Donald Trump won the 2024 election. I may not like it, but I can say it. You cannot say who won the 2020 presidential election. Okay. It's disturbing that you can't give voice to that fact.
I ask you today, do you have any evidence of election fraud or irregularities in the 2020 election?
So, First Senator.
Yes or no? It's a yes or no question.
First Senator.
Do you have evidence, yes or no?
First Senator. I'm so sorry about the fires to you and Senator Schiff and what you're going through in your states. I have to say that.
I appreciate
think
that.
all
My
of our,
clock is ticking, and I want to hear
all of our
your answer.
hearts go out to everyone in California for what you're facing right now. I'm glad you asked the question about Pennsylvania.
It's a yes or no question.
I was
Do
hoping
you have evidence,
someone
yes or
would.
no?
Senator, I was hoping you'd ask the question.
Do you have evidence, yes or no?
I traveled to Pennsylvania.
Do you have evidence, yes or no?
I traveled, Senator, to Pennsylvania.
Okay. You're not answering my question. If you have no evidence to offer, let me ask you this. Will you now retract your previous statements that Trump won Pennsylvania in the 2020 election, yes or no?
Oh, Senator, I traveled to Pennsylvania, and let me tell you what I saw firsthand.
Yes or
no?
no?
I didn't talk about California because I was not in California. I talked about...
Yes or no? Last time I'm going to ask.
I talked about Pennsylvania because
Mr.
I
Chair,
was there.
I'm going to move on because she's
got a
clearly not
court
answering my
order
questions. And
to
I want to know,
observe.
colleagues, for everybody, members of the committee and everybody watching.
If the nation's top law enforcement official can't acknowledge objective reality in deference to Trump's lies, then what does that suggest about how she'll behave as Attorney General? If she doesn't have the spine, the courage to assert her autonomy now while she's applying for the job, then there's not a chance in the world that she'll do it once she's actually confirmed. In fact, that point was driven home even further here.
But let's imagine that once again, President-elect Trump issues a directive or order to you or to the FBI director that is outside the boundaries of ethics or law. What will you do?
Senator, I will never speak on a hypothetical, especially one saying that the president would do something illegal. What I can tell you is my duty, if confirmed as the Attorney General, will be to the Constitution and the United States of America. And the most important oath, part of that oath that I will take, are the last four words, so help me God.
She would never dare humor even the suggestion that Donald Trump, the beacon of truth and honesty, would ever commit an illegal act. Senator Cruz, please get Pam Bondi her smelling salts. She's feeling faint at the notion that Donald J. Trump would ever even allow the thought of doing something illegal to enter into his brain. And frankly, other than his 34 felony convictions and indictments in Georgia and Washington, D.C. and Florida, Trump is the beacon of virtue and integrity. In fact, Bondi's ignorance at Trump's criminality was a recurring theme in this hearing.
Have you heard the recording of President Trump on January 2nd, 2021, when he urged the Secretary of State of Georgia to, quote, find 11,780 votes and declare him the winner of that state?
No, I've heard about it through clips, but no, Senator, I've not heard it.
What was your reaction to President Trump making that call?
I would have to listen to the tape, Senator.
Well, the quote that I give you is exact. He said to the Georgia Secretary of State, find 11,780 votes.
Do you have the entire context of that call? I feel like it was much longer than that and may have been taken out of context.
It was an hour long.
Right.
And you can certainly listen to it. I hope you will. Every American should. As a former prosecutor, are you not concerned that the President of the United States called a state election official and asked him to find enough votes to change the results of the election?
Senator, I have not listened to the hour-long conversation, but it's my understanding that is not what he asked him to do.
You need to listen to it.
I have not listened to the hour-long conversation, but it's my understanding that it's not what he asked him to do. First of all, I could go up to a random dude in the mall, and there's a decent chance that they know about the conversation that Donald Trump had where he attempted to pressure Brad Raffensperger, the Georgia Secretary of State, to find 11,780 non-existent votes in Georgia. The fact that the nominee for Attorney General of the United States says that she hasn't listened to it is a testament to either her lack of honesty or her obliviousness. But second, it's her understanding that it's not what he asked him to do. Then what exactly was Trump seeking to do by asking Brad Raffensperger to find exactly one more vote than the amount that he lost by? Was it not to anoint himself the winner of the election that he lost in that state? If you can tell me what other reason he would have for trying to find one more vote than the margin he lost by in Georgia, I'm all ears. But until then, I think it's clear here that Bondi is lying. And it's not just Trump's criminality. Pam Bondi seems wholly ignorant of any issue that casts Donald Trump in a negative light.
He has also said illegal immigration is poisoning the blood of our nation. He said that in December 2023. Do you agree with that statement?
Senator, I am not familiar with that statement.
And while she claims that she's not familiar, perhaps we can familiarize her.
They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done.
Pretty telling how Pam Bondi cries ignorance at any issue that's politically inconvenient for Trump, in case you were wondering whether or not she intends to be nothing more than an extension of the executive branch. But perhaps the most concerning aspect of this entire hearing is her defense of another Trump nominee.
You've hired someone into the Florida Attorney General's office who you knew had an enemies list.
Senator, to cut to the chase, you're clearly talking about Kash Patel. I don't believe he has an enemies list. He made a quote on TV, which I have not heard. I saw your sign, or Senator Durbin's sign, about Kash. But I know that Kash Patel has had 60 jury trials as a public defender, as a prosecutor. He has great experience in the Intel Department, Department of Defense. I have known Kash, and I believe that Kash is the right person at this time for this job. You'll have the ability to question Mr. Patel.
And I'm questioning you right now
do.
about whether you will enforce an enemies list that he announced publicly on television.
Oh, Senator, I'm sorry. There will never be an enemies list within the Department of Justice.
Bondi says that she doesn't think Kash Patel has an enemies list. Not only does Kash Patel have an enemies list, he literally published it in a book called Government Gangsters, The Deep State, The Truth, and the Battle of Our Democracy. He lays out a list of 60 people who he's deemed members of the executive branch deep state, which includes people such as FBI Director Christopher Wray, Attorney General Merrick Garland, and President Joe Biden. Again, the guy is not only hiding it, he published it, he memorialized it in print, and then he sold it. So when Pam Bondi suggests that Kash Patel doesn't have an enemies list, yet again, is she lying or just oblivious? And I could give more examples of her disqualifying responses, but the point is already clear. Pam Bondi was nominated for one reason, that she is willing to do Donald Trump's bidding. She can't even bring herself to say a single ill word of Donald Trump at her own confirmation hearing when she's ostensibly vying for the support of senators of both parties. If she can't bring herself to show some autonomy now, she will never do it once she's confirmed and serves at the pleasure of the president. And the reality is that, given what we've seen from every single Republican senator in the Senate Judiciary Committee, she likely will be confirmed, given that, like Pam Bondi, the Republican conference has already contracted every ounce of its own autonomy to Trump. This is a recurring theme on the right. No one has the ability to think independently. They're all merely offshoots of the whims and desires of Dear Leader, a government of Trump mouthpieces created by Trump, there to serve for Trump and no one else. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.